Hey you, it's Dave, Trinity 4. I don't normally bother with these kind of videos, but I was watching Quantum of Conscience, Matt, last night, and he was talking about this escape convict, Danilo Cavalcante, escaping Chester County Prison. The CC in Chester County, I'm sure RV Truth has probably dealt with the 33 symbology in that, and there's probably a whole bunch of other symbology here. But Matt was saying, Quantum Conscience was saying that, this is what he calls cake in the lake, pH, ache, fake. You can't say it. Um, and I have to agree with him. I think that this is probably a staged event. And it was interesting because at the same time as this was all going down, there was the same thing, almost identical, getaway, prisoner escapes in London, and a manhunt. Everybody on the news just focusing on that for a few days. So you got to wonder what else was going on during that time. But Matt took quite a lot of abuse for this video because people are saying that he's dropped a ball on this one. So I watched his video and yeah, I was pretty sure that there was something going on here. But why have I said that this has been done with the help of NASA? This is the most interesting part of all. What has NASA got to do with Cavalcante's daring escape? Obviously, him blasting through the razor wire at the top of this uh, roof is pretty fanciful. I'm not saying impossible. I haven't seen the way the razor wire was set up, but I have been through razor wire, and I know how painful it is. And I'm sure that this guy should be able to show us the wounds that he received going through razor wire, and whoever's in charge of prison security would surely be due like a reassignment of their job, because if it's that easy to break out of a prison in this day and age, well, that's a mind blower. Anyway, this is the full video. In order to make my point, I'm going to need to zoom in. I'm also going to need to do a little bit of comparison with some NASA bloopers that I found online. And we'll start before I get to my kind of my highlight. Maybe other people have seen this, but I was surprised that Quantum of Conscience hadn't picked up on this. So we'll go through it a little bit by a little bit. Firstly, to say it's interesting to note that when Cavalcanti comes into scene at the beginning of this, you don't see him all of a sudden. There you go. That's the moment. Here it is. All of a sudden, he just appears there. Like you don't get him actually walking full body, head first into the shot. There is like a cut scene. So we got watch this. We got no one in the scene. Yes, there's a little bit of something here on the floor, and that remains in place. But there's a cut scene, and there he comes. Why would they cut the scene? Why wouldn't they have just showed the whole footage from? Let me just get back to that. Sorry. Why wouldn't they show the whole footage from his head emerging into the thing rather than there he is there? And this will play into what I'm going to reveal in a little while. Here it is. Boom! There he is. Halfway. The man's already sort of down the corridor. Why not 2 seconds before he walks into the scene, and then you see his head emerge? Something that gives this video a little bit of credibility from the authorities' point of view is that you've got this man ghosting here or silhouetting here on the right-hand side of the image, of the footage, and he looks all kind of gangster, what we'd expect, the jailbird kind of image, being stereotyped here. But this dude standing here in this corner gives it the sense of credibility. Like this, he's kind of looking in this direction. Actually, if you look at his head now, he's looking away. But I won't focus too much on that. he disappears out of the shot in a little while. Play that again. I don't think there's any sort of copyright issue with this video. It's very widely shared. But credit to whoever's video this is and any other video I use in this footage. So what is it that caught my attention? Because, you know, I'm not into sneakers or trainers or whatever you call these on his feet, but they do look pretty nice, neat, clean. I guess the prison service can afford to put these guys in nice trainers because, well, the taxpayer picks up the bill, right? So those are nice trainers, well set, nice and clean, ready for his escape. Boom, and look at the man go. That's incredible. Did you notice the slip though? That's a first little tell. Boom, there it is. There it is. So let's go back. I'll slow that down just a little bit for you. This is going to get really juicy. This is just the intro, guys. You just hang in there. I'm going to play this back at, let's go at half speed. And here it comes now. So now obviously he's got all of his weight on 3 points, which is doable. I know people have said this is doable in their reality. I've never done anything like this. I've not seen it myself, but I'm not saying it's impossible. But that's not really what I'm interested in. It is interesting though that he very quickly regains himself, even though he's like lost that momentum, because, you know, slipping 1 foot down like that would cost you momentum. And he's able to take a huge step backwards there. Did you notice that? A huge step backwards, which, well, it reminds me a little bit of those days when, back in the late 60s and early 70s, when the Apollo guys would fall over on the moon and then somehow quickly get yanked back up again. I guess it's the low apparent gravity. But here's what caught my attention, really. I know I'm teasing you a little bit here, but yeah, this is what starts to get my attention, because I don't really care for, you know, government fakery and social engineering and, you know, creating these F flags so as to bring about more social order legislation. Who knows, they might even say, well, we're going to have to now mandate the tracking of all, you know, the chipping of all prisoners, you know, in future because of this CC prison event. But I won't speculate too much about what juice comes from this. But you know how it is: problem, reaction, solution. And in the case of the English or the British event that occurred recently with the getaway, there is to be a change. I forget now what it was, but there is to be a change in certain protocols as a consequence of that. So, you know, these things help to expedite, just like the flu thing from 2020. They help to expedite certain social agendas, social control agendas. Now, I'd be surprised if others haven't kind of noticed this, but here around this guy's waist, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit on. You know, you may never convince your friends and family that we are being hoodwinked, and, you know, events such as staged bang bangs and pop pops and terrorisms. It's so difficult to speak on freely these days, isn't it? But, you know, various things that are being used to control the, you know, the trajectory of the human story. These things are going to happen, and people are going to be deceived. That is quite clear from all the research that I have done and the experience of street work, street activism. That's true, but really I just felt like it was necessary to to clarify and maybe even help Matt out a little bit at Quantum of Conscience, because he placed his bet on this being a snake event, and I think that he was feeling a little bit like, oh, maybe I wasn't right on this one, but I'm pretty sure he was. And here we go. Firstly, I want to point out to you that this guy's wearing something round his waist. And if no one's noticed that, he's a slim man, he's not particularly large, but there's this lump around his waist. What could that be? Well, if you ask your friends over at NASA, they would say that this is how we harness our actonauts to make them look like they're floating in space. But I would suggest to you that this is there. Watch it tick up, is a cable attached to him. And that harness is now pulling him. Boom! Up he goes. Up it pulls him. And out of scene. So let's go back a little bit. So there it goes. And it's pulling, pulling, pulling. Now when his foot slips, there, boom! It pulls his back up again. Now, I know you could say he's all adrenalined up, and we do have super strength under adrenaline. But this looks to me like the pack of a harness. And up it goes. Even though he's only gone to one leg, he hasn't actually lost momentum. It's like he's still able to keep pulling up. Boom, you see that, how his back arches and then push up. His feet are not having to do that much work. I mean, this is I'm not saying impossible as an athletic or acrobatic exercise. Look at the belly there. It's a bit of a gut on that, and I don't think he's particularly fat. I think it's just that the harness is creating that sort of overhang. But wow, when you look at this under slow replay, you're seeing it pull up. Now, why with this? Let's go back to the beginning and watch him here from here and see how that pack looks. I mean, what is it? Are you saying that that's a sweatshirt? Do you think that that's a sweatshirt? Where are the arms for the sweatshirt? Has he managed to tuck them in somehow? I'd say that's being a little bit generous. Watch there, it's pulling up. Already it's pulling up. And it'll obviously be a very tight, neat piece of kit. I mean, the NASA guys have been spending billions, or millions at least, on perfecting this. Boom, he slips and his back still keeps going up. Doesn't that remind you of the NASA boys when they go down and then they go up again? Almost instantaneously. Look at him. Why am I not full screen? I mean, it's just really worth watching in your own time. Boom, it's pulling, it's pointing now. It's actually peaking now, that Tim Peake, another con man. You got to watch his act. See, his backside just keeps pushing up. Even on one leg. Now, I'm not saying this guy isn't athletic, but he's not. This is not something that you can just pull off, This is really, I mean, if he's done this through practicing. But that this is his sweatshirt so neatly tied around his back and so pulling up. Let's watch this again. There we go. Oh, there the guy goes off screen, but I'm seeing this, and job done. And then this guy's still here, but it's now as he goes clear, this guy walks away. This guy here, I'm just speculating now, but this guy here, the shady character here, he's probably part of the show. He's probably ensuring that nobody comes in and spoils the scene. Once he's clear, then the guy walks off. And I don't think they were collaborators. And if they were, I suspect the police or the policy officialdom would have actually spoken to him, and we'd know who he was. Well, maybe we wouldn't if he was a prisoner, but it's interesting how the timing of Cavalcade, as he clears the deck, feet go up and out onto some ledge, and then the man walks away in exactly the same moment. So this guy here is part of the act. He's part of the scene. He's there to be a cover, and to make sure that nobody interferes with this scene while it's going down. Now, I said that right at the beginning here, that we go from a clear corridor right at the start. Let's go right back to the beginning. A clear corridor. We'll play this, and we're rolling slowly at quarter speed. Clear corridor, and then he's about to arrive. Now, do you see that? That was a cut scene there. So they cut the scene, and now he's walking. Now, why I'm making such a big deal about that? Sorry, let's go back here. Why I'm making such a big deal about that is because, just by the way, as an aside, seeing that, I've got to tell you that if you believe that Putin is buying weapons from Kim Jong-un, you are ill, because that Tin Pot Nation is a CIA creation, and just 15, 20 years ago, they were telling us how there were no computers in their country, and the computers that they did have were imports that they put their own little front labels on, but because they couldn't even make their own computers. They couldn't build their own computers. But today, they are meant to be a superpower that can support Russia. Now, obviously, the ducks are being lined up for the big, finale of this World War III that's been building for years. We know that CV 18+1 was a trial run for putting in the levers of control that are coming down the line. But this concept that Pyongyang is a co-conspirator or collaborator, and now sort of creating this alignment with Putin to support him with weapons, you've got to know that is complete and total bullshit. And I speak from some authority, having been in the Angolan War in the 80s and having met Russian equipment, older Russian, some of it new, but it's still, Russia has been a leader in military for, well, as long as we have records, and the concept that North Korea could somehow be providing it is ridiculous as suggesting that Hitler could have continued what he did in World War II without support from Western interests. So just get that out the way. Anyway, back to Cavalcade. Now, what we've got here is, my point was that, yes, he's coming in. Let's start this from where he walks in. He's coming in. The reason why they have cut scenes, so you got this and then that cut. This is it. This is the moment that it fades in for the actual scene of his escape. And boom, there he is. So why did they do that? I tell you why they did that. Because he is already wearing the harness, and obviously, if he's got a one of these fiber wires or whatever they use in NASA, if he's got one of those, then he obviously can't walk from round the corner kind of thing. He's got to have been hooked up, wired up, connected up, and then he only needs to start from walking in from here. So I would suggest that that's the reason why they start the scene there, is that um, he has been wired up, and he can only walk 10 paces away from the winch that's going to pull him up. So I would suggest that's what that is. He may even be, I suggest he may even be holding the cable in his left hand at this point. And then as he walks to the wall, he'll feed the cable around his back. This guy could work for NASA. Next year he could be an astronaut on the International Space Station. So look out, because stranger things have happened. So let's follow this through. Now it's interesting, he is looking over to the right, and at this moment in time there's no one here. The shadowed character is not falling on him. These bars that are across here, I'm not quite sure, these bars of sun shade are possibly from something in the roof above, in the space above. If that's outdoor above, then it could be that, and that could be part of the razor wire that he's about to blast through. But he's looking back, and the left arm stays out of sight. And then when is the shadow coming in? See, we still haven't seen his left hand. It's interesting how the left hand didn't walk. We walk left and right, and the arms normally swing left and right. And if you've got something in your hand, I understand why they wouldn't necessarily swing normally. But here we have a man who doesn't seem to be moving, and now the guy comes in. The shady character comes in on the right hand side of the scene. His handler, perhaps, he's coming in. The left hand still hasn't come down. This is the first time I've actually considered this part of the trick. The left hand still hasn't come down. So he's not, because if you think about it, he wouldn't necessarily want to have the cable trailing behind him as he walked down the corridor. It would make sense to be holding it in front, and still haven't seen the left hand. And now we've got a little bit of a distraction coming in the right hand side here. He takes a look through the window, and now we see his left hand. But that could have been the moment there where he released the cable. He goes backwards to the wall and then steps forward. So going backwards to the wall might be to make sure that the pulley is in the correct position before the act begins. And there you begin to see the ticking of his back, of his harness, of his sweatshirt. And boom, do you see that? Did you notice that? Did you notice it seems to be yeah, I mean, that seems to be picking up. Now people could say that's a shading issue, it's the way that the light is coming in. But he's mostly all in the shade there. His wrists are in the light, but he's mostly in the shade there. So for it to pick up that more doesn't really make sense. It doesn't quite fit. Yeah, I mean, that's, and he's at fairly full stretch here, His body's at full length here. That. And see how his knees are now His knees are now completely at 90 degrees, and yet he's still able to push his back up. This is a feat of strength. I can see why the masses are amazed and bewildered. And I was reading some comments on the video that was posted by the news outlet, and the masses are, just in awe of this guy. Obviously, they don't accept, murder and all that, but they're in awe of this guy. And it's meant to create that. It's meant to create that. Wow, that's so that like when children see a magician do a particular act, they go, "Wow, Daddy, that was incredible." And he's meant to wow them with little popping, crackers and lights and flashes and bangs, and they're like, "Oh, Daddy, did you see that?" And for sure they didn't cut the assistant in half. It was just a trick of the eye. Okay, so even though his foot has now slipped and his whole body weight is now wanting to, because of density, is wanting to drop downwards, he still manages to drive his backside up whilst his left leg is way lower. He's now at full stretch, but his backside is still rising, with just one leg being able to drive that up, because the arms can't drive that up. It has to come from the legs at this point, and he's only got the one. That slip was not intended. Still driving up, and then able to kick his. Trust me, you're trying to get that right leg now higher than the left leg. Yeah, I'd like to see that done by people who practice this every day. And we know that this guy could not have been practicing this every day. I know that they have gyms and guys do work out quite a lot in the prison system there, but this guy doesn't have that degree of buffness that you see, that that super muscled up look that you see. Rather, he's got a little bit of a belly going on here. There's a little bit of belly, and again, it may not be that he's carrying much or any excess weight, but because of the tightness of his Tim Peake belt, you should got to see the belt, that little Tim Peake. He's a tiny little man, and he's wearing this belt that is so big and so heavy. You think, wow, don't they want to minimize how much weight they take up into space? You would think that they give him a super light belt, or say, you know what, use a piece of string, mate. But they all wear these super thick webbing belts, and then nappies in the trousers, which this guy could have. It could be more than just around the waist. It could be a whole nappy set that he's wearing. But this is the bit here that attaches to the Tom Cruise type cables. I mean, look at that. He's able to put that right leg down. And not even, he's able to lift it so high up, put it down, and then drive all of his weight. Because remember, the arms are really only sort of there as the sort of lock on the other side. They can't do a lot of the climbing here. The legs are having to do the work. And so he's able to lift that almost a half step backwards, put his toes down, and continue driving up with just his toes, and what seems to be the left foot slipping ever so slightly. I hadn't really noticed that before, but it does appear as if that's slipping a little bit. So there you have it. I think that's probably, you're either going to be going, no, you're an idiot. Of course, he really did this escape because I saw it on TV. And my masters at the Bureau of Prisons, private and self-interested, have never lied to us. Shawshank Redemption was just a Hollywood imagination of there being a warden who was corrupt. And of course, even the warden wouldn't necessarily have to know, but I suspect that this is pretty much an inside job. And just like we saw at Lahaina, um, is it the mayor or the governor or the fire chief or someone? They just happened to be the guy in charge at not Sandy's Crook, the other one, uh, Las Vegas. So this guy has just left Las Vegas, and he's done a great job of keeping the media busy over the last 2 weeks. As I said, I wouldn't have known about this one. Try and I don't bother too much with the mainstream horse spew. It's just pointless. Other than I think to kind of get a gauge of, like I said, with Pyongyang, and the building of wars, rumors of wars, and economic hardship. Uh, because there is a drumbeat, and that drumbeat is getting faster, and we will be in our time. We will be witness to insanity that um, will make all of those things that have gone before look like just warm-ups, which is what I believe that they were. All of this, it could be like the Shawshank thing where he was carrying, accounts and books and other things in here. He'd cleverly got himself a little day pack. Okay, that's possible. But this day pack right here, see it here. It looks flat. It looks flat to his back. Not, it is padded. It's not. It's quite thick, but it's not ticking up like it does now and there and there. It's 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 bending away. It's becoming proud of the spine, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't have. Whoops. It shouldn't have anything to do with that. So there you go. CC prison. Another seems to me um, pokes, smokes, jokes. Two, yeah, I mean it'll meet more than one social agenda for sure. This event, who knows? They might even have a new version of Patriot Act just lined up, waiting to be rolled out to ensure that poor citizens, yeah, yeah, that's too easy. And there goes the back, and there goes the back. Hmm. What do you think? Leave some thoughts in the comments, and don't buy into World War III. You know that they only want your energy and maybe your sons, and certainly your tax dollars. Um, and I'll try and clip in a bit of NASA fakery as well at the same time. It's interesting how this guy just happens, by the way, never to get his face on camera, so we don't know who he is. And that's, you could say, well, they know where the cameras are and they don't like to put their faces on camera, blah, blah, blah. I get that. But this is just a regular day, and these guys are used to being under camera all the time, I expect. So he just appears during this scene, and then disappears once the scene is complete. Let's watch this at let's watch this a little bit faster, actually, just for fun while I'm here and you're still watching. Um, so 1.75. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not buying it. Sorry.